Hello, Dr. Youngverse. So today I have a good little video for you as well. Let's see, is about my presentation for whatever reason it's being weird. Okay, no, that's really weird. Okay, give me a second. I'm not the best when it comes to Zoom. I use it quite a bit, but I don't ever actually do the videos themselves for myself for meetings. Somebody else always sets them up, but trying to figure this out. Here we go. Perfect. All right. So let me get started. I chose my organization on Amalgamated Sugar. Amalgamated Sugar is here in Idaho. They're not originally an Idaho-based company. They were actually a Utah-based company. But I chose it because there's one right down the road from me. I live right here in Twin Falls. Amalgamated has a massive processing plant here in Twin. We process a lot of sugar all the time, it seems like. It's kind of fun because sometimes you can smell the molasses they're making, and from a couple miles away it smells like caramel pop. It's kind of a fun thing. So their mission statement is to produce real sugar for the informed consumer, improve the economic experience for our member growers and employees. The company is based off of growers. In fact, the stock shares and much of the company's I don't remember what you call it. Anyhow, much of the company is owned by growers. It's distributed across like 150 to 200 growers across the state of Idaho and Oregon, as well as some in Montana, some in Wyoming, and some in northern Utah. Primarily Idaho, though. American Falls is a big sugar beet producer area. The same with Twin Falls County. Much of Bonneville County has sugar beet still grown, and quite a bit over near Ada County. Sugar beets in Idaho. Sugar beets are a tuber, which is pretty much like a potato. It grows in the ground like a carrot. In fact, carrots, potatoes, sweet potatoes, sugar beets, radishes, turnips, all of those are considered a tuber based on the fact they grow underground and they're what's known as a natural tiller for the soil. They produce three of the three macronutrients, which is nitrogen, excuse me, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And those are super critical here in the southern Idaho region because some of those nutrients we lack of. So we got to have something to help kind of subsidize it. So sugar beets are fantastic. In that sense, they're grown well in the alkaline and volcanic soils here in Idaho. Sugar beets are larger than potatoes. They're about the size of my head, which are pretty big compared to a potato. There's been times I've heard of growers pulling out 15 to 20-pound sugar beets, which is very rare. But at the same time, they're a great big vegetable, essentially. So I know it's the best soil and the growth conditions for these beets to grow. That's primarily why Amalgamated Sugar continues to grow its beets in Idaho. Here's some of the basic history. It was started in 1897 in Ogden, Utah, and it changed names from Logan Sugar and Ogden, and they all became one big conglomerate and called themselves the Amalgamated Sugar Company. From the 1800s to the 1940s, they built plants all across the Pacific Northwest and parts of Utah as well as Wyoming. From 2009, the most current information that I could get was they have the 3 processing plants, and they're big, they're huge. The one here in Twin Falls covers like 200 or 300 acres. The one in Nampa, I believe, is about 500, and the one in Paul is almost 400 or 500 as well. So pretty big places. I mean, because a lot of them have to have room to store the sugar beets, and if they don't have room for the sugar beets to store there, they have contracts with a lot of the farmers that they work with that are allowed to keep the sugar beets on the property until they need to haul them into the plant to be processed, just because they don't have the storage. It's amazing. In fact, this past year, they had a great year of sugar beets because of the hot, humid climate that we were having over here. That they had 5 or 6 big piles that were about quarter of a mile long by 500 or 600 feet wide and maybe 40, 50 feet tall. They were huge piles, just huge piles. just sugar beets. And it took them like 5 extra months to process those great big piles compared to previous years. So it's kind of a fun process to see that. But yeah, the company is owned by the farmers and producers. They just kind of split it across. In fact, the CEO, John McCready, has a great big farm facility out in American Falls. Their family grows sugar beets and potatoes. So here's just a few of the facts. They're very, like most of these big companies, they're trying to provide as much of a carbon footprint or make one more or more less. I still don't understand the carbon footprint thing, but it's an ever-changing world. We're trying to, cut back on water usage. We're trying to cut back on herbicide and pesticide usage, as well as cutting back on the CO2 emissions and erosion, which is important. You got to have, you got to keep a balance of everything. Being a farmer myself, I have to watch what I do and spend money where I need to carefully. And the same goes for a company that's this big versus a farmer that's small. So they just have all sorts of implementations going on, with more and more coming into the future. One thing about sugar beets people don't know is they're a GMO. GMOs are not bad. I wish more people understood the importance of a GMO. Not to get off topic, but the reason that mangoes and papayas are still being grown and are showing up in the grocery store because they're a GMO. They're a product of a GMO. In the 1990s, there was a massive outbreak of a pest that they could not control in the islands of Guam, Hawaii, and the Pacific, the South Pacific. Most of it was because of this pest. They couldn't grow a lot of these much needed fruits. And so farmers were struggling, people were losing businesses, crops were dying. So they had to find a way to create more of a sustainable, more vigorous product. And that's why GMOs are so critical. There's currently only 9 GMO products in the world. There's not thousands. Milk can't be GMO. Even if livestock eat GMO feed, it's not going to affect. I wish GMOs were preached or talked to, essentially preached. They need to be talked to and shared more with people on a more positive note instead of a negative. So sugar beets are all GMO, but it's for a certain reason. It's so they can sustain them and keep them growing and constantly being able to fight against pesticides, not pesticides, pests, as well as fight against weeds and certain viruses that are within the ground. So super healthy, super important. I like sharing that information. Might not be relevant on this presentation, but it just kind of gives everybody an idea of what's going on. So moving on, their company core values was improving the quality of its products and work for employees, producers, and consumers. There's safety, social responsibility, integrity, quality, continuous improvement, and accountability. I say those are 6 pretty good core values. I think most companies need to take that into consideration. So here's a quick preview of the company. And there's your sugar beet. That's just an example of how big some of them are. I bet that one's a good 10, 12 pounder. That's a pretty stout looking sugar beet for sure. But human relations and resources is critical. The same as socialization process, organizational diversity processes, and the systems and cultural approaches. And so these 4 I picked from the book and I put them into this company. These 4 I see being the most prevalent for the size of this company. It's involved in agriculture and you're employing more than 1,000 employees. So the human relations and resources, you have both the CEO and then you have Nick Whitman. He's part of management there in Twin. I actually know Nick Whitman a little bit through a friend. Both these people, I mean, they see the best of the company. They work with everybody, but they're constantly trying to improve. They're trying to find ways of working with the employees. You're always going to have employees that, that didn't do their job or didn't fully quite want to provide the best that they could on the job, put their best effort forward. So you're going to have a lot of employees complaining and saying, well, this job wasn't good. this company didn't treat us very well. You're going to get that everywhere you go. But from what I can understand, this company is an excellent company. The organization of the farmers and the employees together makes up for, their pros and cons that are negative. So here's some of the Indeed reviews that I found. There's one that's a 5-star. There's one that's a 1-star. I mean, these are people that are being honest. The pros, there's a lot of benefits. The cons, some of these people don't like working with these managers. That's going to happen in every job. The same with some of the higher ups. People are like, well, you have to kiss butt to get up in a higher position. I understand that. If you do the best that you are doing, your hard work's going to pay off. In this situation, some of these people are working hard and they're not getting enough benefits out of it. So I hope the company sees that. I hope they step in. You know what? We're going to make this right for this employee or these employees. We're going to try and bump them up in pay and give them some different days off. It sounds like the work schedule is a little hectic and it's kind of graveyard-like. So there's a few things the company could definitely improve on. Socialization process. This was an interesting one. The company has so much that it does with social media, trying to get people across the United States informed on where their food comes from and how things are done. They have videos on how the sugar beet process is performed from the day it's planted in the ground to the day it shows up in the grocery store. It's stuff like this as we're able to share with their communities around us as well, a global community, the actual factual information. It's not this falsified information that we're seeing a lot more of based on agriculture, which is unfortunate. You see a lot more false, not factual. And so a company to come in on social media and be like, hey, this is what it's all about. This is what it's really geared towards. I love seeing that. We need to have more of that. The other it's an organization company. They're both. They do a lot for the community. I know they do quite a bit for the College of Southern Idaho. They do a lot for University of Idaho students and employees. They do a lot for schools across the state, Boise State University. Students that are trying to go to school, a lot of times they will give scholarships out for those students that are ag science or ag business related. I know there's a big thing going around that they donated several thousand tons of sugar products to Ukraine and Russia and the people that are, those refugees coming from the Ukraine to other countries like Europe, United Kingdom, those areas. Great Britain, can't talk today, apologize. Employees all working together. That's the other thing, is they try to get everybody to work together on big projects. I've got 2 friends that are currently working there. One works in the kiln where the molasses is made, and the other one is one of the higher up managers over the field and crops inspections. And when it comes to big projects, they like to get everybody involved, and even those who aren't involved together, to learn and understand this is what's going on. Whether people want to do it or not, they just want people to know, hey, this is what we're working on. We want you to know. That way, if something comes up and we need help with changes, we're going to come to you. So kind of a neat opportunity within the company. They have about 2,000 employees with the 3 locations. The biggest locations in Paul, Idaho, puts out about 2 million tons of sugar a year. The Twin Falls is 1.5 to 2 million. And then over in Nampa, they have a great big facility. They're right at about 1 million pounds. 1 million tons, I should say, not 1 million pounds. It's a lot more than pounds. 1 million tons a year and growing. Of course, it's, that number fluctuates quite a bit, depends on the season. I mean, the growing season of sugar beets really depends on what's going on. Where are they going to harvest? What's going to be like? We should have a good year this year, but you never know with water, and you never know with everything going on. The climate constantly kind of fluctuating. It could be cold like it was cold this spring. It's going to affect it. We don't know how. We don't know how long. So anyhow, keep moving. Everybody plays a major role in this company. Everybody is socializing constantly, trying to find ways to improve, to become better, to share their opportunities. all the way from high ups down to the bottom, the guy that pushes a broom all day long. All those people matter. They're all going to socialize. They're all going to talk. They're all going to share super important things or not super important things that may become more important. So socialization process is very important in this organization. The diversity is really interesting. Kind of reading through the book a little bit, I was reading quite a bit about, you get a lot more into our modern world with feminism and people with that think there's more multiple genders, and it's the whole diversity itself is becoming so much more broad than it was 50 years ago. We need to accept each other in the workplace, especially. There's no need to judge or criticize. Everyone comes from a different background and some can't help it. And you know what? That's fine. So much of this organization is primarily white men. There is quite a few quite a few women coming into the workplace in this organization. A lot of the higher ups are women, especially in the ag department where the field and crop specialists are. I know one that's actually an internship, that's on an internship from the University of Idaho, that's in Boise. And she says it's a great organization to be a woman because they all come to the women like, hey, we need your help too. We can't just rely on other men. We need to get everybody involved. And that's a great start to creating diversity within the company. 60% are white, 30% roughly Latino. I found a couple, 1% to 2% for Asian. I'm sure there's a little bit more than that. Quite a bit of Middle Eastern. We do have a high Middle Eastern population in Twin Falls, primarily because of Chobani, but there's quite a few people that come from Islamic backgrounds and speaking Arabic and such. And so there's quite a bit of diversity in that sense. Languages are primarily English, Spanish, some Arabic, and some Chinese. 39% of these employees have a basic high school diploma, with about 58% having a higher education. Much of that higher education was just like an associate's, a general ag degree, a general ag business, and even just a general college education, nothing too high. There was, I think 35% had a bachelor's or higher. So not very many had a bachelor's, which is really interesting. Annual average income is about $39,000 a year, 39 to 40 roughly in that ballpark. The highest level of age group is about 20 to 30 years old employed, followed by the 40 and up, and then the 18 to 20 years old. 18 to 20 years old for those just entering the workforce is starting to grow quite a bit more. But it's interesting to see that the longest, the average employment duration is about 5 years. So some of these 18 to 20-year-olds don't typically last very long. Maybe they get burnt out. Maybe they realize this is what they want to do. Kind of interesting to see that. The systems and cultural approaches. This one took me a little bit to try and figure out how it would relate to this organization, but I think much of it is based on the changing of the world around them. The cultural approach of Amalgamated Sugar is striving towards new opportunities and sustainability with an ever-changing world. Granted, we have food shortages, we have fuel shortages, we have a mess. Our world is in a mess currently. And trying to find a way to resolve it is going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of work. But trying to find ways to improve our living based on this is something that is becoming more and more effective based on organizations such as Amalgamated. A lot of it's based on the carbon footprint. They're working on all sorts of new opportunities, primarily within soil erosion and trying to use more equipment that doesn't put out near the emissions. A lot of the genetic modifying is slowly taking off more and more. As long as people understand the importance of what a GMO really is, it's not going to give you cancer. If you take a bite of treated seed, you're going to get sick. Corn that has a red powder on it has red powder on it for a reason. The same with sugar beets. Sugar beets are treated seed. when they go in the ground. And treated seed is very critical to helping that crop produce and germinate and grow despite any, disease, any pest that might try and come attack that seed. Hence, genetics being modified within a crop is very important. And I will say that to the end of the day that I die, that GMOs are the way to go. The same with this company. Amalgamated Sugar knows the importance of a GMO and why sugar beets have to be constantly ever changing in a new climate, new soil conditions, because they're being grown in places they've never been grown before. And then it's interesting, the systems approach, I took it and used it more towards, a global systems approach of a regional company here in the state of Idaho working with food processing and food producing countries such as the Ukraine. Ukraine is a massive agricultural country producing a lot of winter wheat and rye, as well as a lot of sugar beets. Well, with the war going on between Russia and Ukraine, there's a huge need, a very dire need for more sugar to be produced over there. So with Idaho having the amalgamated sugar, they're taking a lot of the sugar that they're processing and they're shipping it over there. I'm not sure how much they're charging to go over there, but all I know is they're trying to supply the demand for the people over in those countries to try and help them out, which I think is a fantastic opportunity for them. So for my recommendations and my conclusion, I think the company itself is an excellent organization based on its employees and its farmers, everybody coming together to work on taking a product that you grow and producing a product out of that for the consumer, the modern day consumer. People are constantly changing their diets. People are constantly changing the way they eat, the way they look at food, especially sugar. So a company that can produce sugar more sustainably, like compared to, sugar cane coming from other countries. The United States does not grow much sugar cane. It primarily comes from South America, the Caribbean islands. There's a little bit grown in Florida. So a company like this, they're constantly trying to find ways to improve. And I think one of those is if they took like a survey and sent a survey to all these people within the company based on pros and cons, I think the company could do really well and find ways that they can improve versus ways they can let go of. Say they have employees that are having a problem with shift. We'll find a way that you can create a work schedule, a new work schedule, shifts, whatever you want to call them. Find ways to make it work for all employees involved. So it's not just, we're picking the same employee to work the same night shift, switch them up, give some more days, give some more nights, take off some more nights. I don't know. Increase pay and incentives. Increasing pay would be great, but we also have to think about when they increase the pay, where is the money going to raise along the other side of the company? Is it going to make the cost of sugar go up? Is it going to make the cost for buying parts for equipment go up? That's something the company would have to look at. But if they can increase pay, as well, just give more incentives, more benefits, more paid time vacation, paid time off, stuff like that for the employees who are really doing their best effort. I would rather, give an employee more incentives based on their hard work versus an employee who just shows up, barely does the minimum and then just goes home. I want to see an employee putting their best effort every day, despite hardships going on at home, despite things going on in their life. They put that aside. They come to work. They show me who they are. I would definitely give them a huge incentive. I'd be like, you know what? You're providing a lot here at the company. You're doing great and you're working with others. Here's an incentive. And if that was to be the case, more and more employees would hop on and be like, you know what? Maybe I should change my demeanor. Maybe I should change my mannerisms and the things that I'm doing. Maybe I should work just a little bit harder versus taking a longer break or sitting and complaining about my day. We get so much of that anymore. Most people don't want to work. I cannot tell you how hard it is to find people to come out and pick rock out of my fields just so I can get some crops planted. I can't. I do it myself because I can't find the work. That's these companies. They're in the same boat. They're trying to find hardworking people who are willing to put in the time and the effort based on their skills, but also based on what they're willing to learn. I think we need to have more incentives for these people. And I think Amalgamated Sugar could definitely do that. Finding ways to engage with the consumer, I think that is very important. If they go to the fairs, if they go to county fairs, they go to community events where more and more consumers and the public are, they're able to share with them more information about where food comes from. What is sugar? Where does it come from? I think in the long run, people would do much better that way, and they would understand it and be more appreciative of their food. And then continue to be a diverse company. Anymore, all companies and organizations need to be diverse because we have so many people who have so much knowledge and skills from different backgrounds. We could have a woman that comes from, a Japanese background, and she's Japanese and she comes from a background with family that, they did a lot of hard work running a grocery store. So she has a lot of skills, working with consumers and working with product and getting it out to people. People like that, you bring them into your company. They're going to produce, they're going to show you what they're capable of doing. And that's what I like in today's world. We're not just, oh, we're going to go talk to this man. He knows everything. 50 years ago, that's all they did. Well, this isn't 50 years ago. This is modern times. Let's get everyone involved. Everyone is equal. Everyone has an opportunity. So let's go ahead and give them. So to conclude, Amalgamated really just has a lot of potential for Idahoans in the workplace to grow, excel, and to offer more incentives to this company would allow for the employees to keep going. I did as much as I could to use this book, the organizational communications, because that's what this company is based about. An organization based on its farmers, its producers, and its employees. If you can take these processes and analysis and break them down and take examples and put them into reality, people are going to start to take that and think, okay, there's a way we can improve this company. So in a scenario, Amalgamated could, improve its work opportunities for everybody involved, or it could increase its incentives. It can increase so much more new opportunities for, the people that are involved in the company. You would have more and more opportunity for more people coming with a positive outlook on life, positive opportunity at the job, and you would have happier people, not just through the community, but globally. So to conclude, organizational skills are very important. This short 4 weeks of this semester, I've learned quite a bit about this book, the importance of these processes, these approaches, why they have to be done in a certain way, why we need to have them is critical. It's going to be critical in my future in a career where I'm an ag major here at the University of Idaho. I'm constantly working with diverse cultures, diverse people, and having these communication skills is really going to help me in the long run. So this is my presentation. Thank you for taking the time to watch it. And I learned a lot from this presentation. I learned a lot from this project overall. So thank you for giving me the opportunity, and I appreciate it again. Thank you.